The dry Utah wind sliced across the desert basin like a blade. Dust curled in tiny whirlwinds, whispering secrets only the ancient rock could understand. Duane Ollinger stood silently at the edge of a sinkhole so deep it seemed to bleed darkness. The crew had barely begun to understand what they were looking at. But one thing was certain. This wasn't just another cave. This was a tomb, or worse, a trap. "I've been doing this a long time," Duane said, tightening the strap on his helmet. "But this is definitely the most dangerous thing I've been a part of in my career." His words hung in the air like smoke from a long-dead fire. 3 days earlier, the latest ground-penetrating radar scan had revealed something odd. An underground void stretching nearly 70 feet below the surface, shaped like an oblong chamber with sharp geometric edges. Chad, Duane's son, had been the first to spot it on the monitor. "There's symmetry here," Chad had said, tapping the screen. "This isn't natural. No way." The decision to excavate came fast. Too fast, some would say. They brought in a mini excavator, reinforced ropes, full climbing gear, and an atmospheric sensor array. And when the first chunk of crust gave way, sending a 30-pound slab of rock tumbling into the dark, they knew they had just opened something that had remained sealed for generations. Jamie, their longtime geologist and trusted friend, had misgivings from the start. "If this chamber is sealed, the air inside could be toxic," he warned, "or flammable, or both." But, as with everything at Blind Frog Ranch, the risk wasn't the obstacle, it was the invitation. Descent into the abyss hole was only 3 feet wide at its narrowest point. Getting in meant squeezing, squirming, and trusting the rigging wouldn't fail. Chad went first, followed by Duane and Jamie. A backup team stood topside, monitoring every breath and heartbeat through biometric sensors clipped to their belts. 20 feet down, the walls were carved smooth, not by water, but by hands. Ancient hands. 50 feet down, the oxygen meter began to fluctuate. "We are hitting something bad," Jamie said through the comms. "I'm seeing spikes in methane and carbon dioxide. This whole pocket could go up." "We back out now. We may never get this chance again," Duane replied. "We go slow. No sparks. No electronics beyond lights and sensors." It was a gamble. A big on then, at 68 feet, they hit the chamber. The chamber of Ecosit was larger than any of them expected, 30 feet wide, 20 high. The walls were coated in what looked like obsidian, but under their lights, it shimmered strangely, almost like oil slick. Carvings ran along the sides, symbols they hadn't seen before. Not Aztec, not Anasazi, not Ute, but something older. In the center stood a stone pedestal, its top hollowed like a basin. Inside it lay what looked like gold coins, tangled with brittle leather strips and bones. Human bones. Chad leaned in, eyes wide. "You seeing this?" Before anyone could answer, the chamber vibrated. A low hum buzzed through the floor, like machinery deep beneath their feet had awoken. And then it happened. The collapse of the ceiling above them buckled with a sound like thunder. A crack ripped through the rock above, showering the crew in dirt and rubble. Jamie was pinned instantly, his leg trapped beneath a slab. "We've got to collapse," Duane yelled. "Jamie's hurt. We need extraction." Now topside went wild. Duane and Chad scrambled to dig Jamie out, but another tremor knocked them off balance. Their oxygen meters were now flashing red. Methane levels were spiking. They had maybe minutes before it became a death trap. And then Chad saw something that froze him cold. One of the gold coins in the basin had begun to glow. Faintly. Pulsing like a heartbeat. "Dad," he whispered, "this isn't a tomb. It's a warning. The rescue, they had to get out. Fast. Duane clipped a sling under Jamie's arms, hoisted him onto his shoulders, and began the agonizing climb out. Chad followed, coughing, dizzy from the gas. The rope creaked under their weight. Rocks fell around them like rain. Halfway up, the secondary anchor bolt gave out. The whole line swung hard against the shaft wall, smashing Jamie's helmet light. They were plunged into partial darkness. Duane fought for breath, sweat, and blood in his eyes. "We lose this rope," Chad gasped. "We all go." "Keep climbing," Duane growled. "No matter what." It took every ounce of strength and stubbornness to get Jamie to the top. As Chad emerged last, gasping, pale, shaking, the sinkhole groaned behind him and collapsed entirely, sealing the chamber like a mouth snapping shut. Aftermath: Jimmy was airlifted to a trauma center with a fractured femur and concussion. He survived, but barely. In the days that followed, Duane reviewed the footage frame by frame. Something didn't sit right. The glowing coin, the pulse, the symbols. None of it aligned with any known culture or Spanish conquistadors who once roamed the area. They brought in specialists, linguists, archaeologists, even a physicist from Stanford. The consensus, whatever they found, was not only ancient, but potentially not terrestrial. "I'm not saying it's aliens," said the physicist, "but this material structure is impossible to recreate with current Earth-based metallurgy." Duane stared at him across the dusty table. "Then what the hell did we almost die for?" Reflection standing at the site days later, Duane looked out over the rubble where the chamber once lay. The land had a stillness to it, unnatural, like something had gone to sleep again. "Beneath the earth I've seen things I'll never be able to explain," Duane said into the camera for the episode's final interview. "But this almost killed us. It was a trap, designed to lure us in. And I think we triggered something we weren't supposed to." He looked off into the desert, his jaw tight. "In all my years, drilling oil fields, chasing treasure, surviving floods, collapses, and cave-ins, this was the closest I've come to not making it out. Definitely the most dangerous thing I've been a part of in my career." And in his eyes, there was no bravado, only awe and fear. Epilogue. The symbol. 2 weeks later, Chad received an encrypted file from a contact at the university. The file contained an enhanced scan of one of the symbols from the chamber wall. When overlaid onto a digital topographic map of Blind Frog Ranch and surrounding properties, it formed a perfect grid. At the center, an unmarked hill that no one had ever explored. Chad closed the laptop and picked up the radio. "Dad, you need to see this." Because even in the face of near death, the mystery had only deepened. And Blind Frog Ranch wasn't finished with them yet. Dust devils curled along the ridgelines of Blind Frog Ranch, and the heat shimmered over the desert floor like the land itself was breathing. For Duane Ollinger, owner of the infamous property and veteran of 100 dangerous endeavors, the place had never felt quite this alive or threatening. It was supposed to be a routine dig, Duane later told the camera, his voice grim, his eyes weary. But what we found underground was definitely the most dangerous thing I've ever been a part of in my entire career. A signal from below it all started with a strange signal. A rhythmic pulse picked up by the newly installed underground resonance sensor grid. The pattern was too regular to be natural, and it was coming from an area of the ranch that had long been avoided, an old sinkhole that had opened up years ago and been deemed too unstable for exploration. But the readings were unlike anything the team had seen. It was like something was knocking, said Jamie, the team's geologist. 4 beats. Pause. 4 beats. Pause. Like Morse code, but coming from 120 feet underground. Duane gathered his crew, his son Chad, Jamie, and Charlie, the security expert. Against every warning in the book, they decided to open it up. What could go wrong? The descent excavation began at sunrise. As dirt and rock were pulled from the mouth of the sinkhole, a tunnel emerged, lined with timber supports blackened from age, and something more unnerving. Burn marks, scorch marks, charred symbols, and fragments of bone. Still, they pressed on. We couldn't stop, Chad said. We had to know what was down there. Duane and Chad descended first, followed by Jamie with atmospheric sensors and Charlie providing overwatch at the surface. The tunnel dropped steeply before widening into a subterranean chamber unlike anything they had seen, hexagonal in shape, with walls of fused stone and metal. An unnatural blend of geology and engineering. In the center of the floor was a perfectly circular pit, surrounded by what looked like copper coils embedded into the rock. The resonance was louder now, audible. A low, throbbing hum that pulsed through their boots and bones. And then something shifted in the air. A smell, ozone, and sulfur. That was when the lights cut out. Underground chaos plunged into darkness. The crew scrambled for backup lighting. Headlamps flickered to life, revealing something horrifying. Jamie was convulsing on the ground, foam bubbling at his lips. The sensor rig he was wearing was fried, still sparking. "EM burst," Duane said. "We're in a charged zone." Chad grabbed Jamie under the arms, pulling him away from the pit. The ground beneath them vibrated, and then, without warning, a blast of heat and air erupted from the circle in the floor, knocking Chad off his feet and throwing Duane against the chamber wall. It was like something breathed, Duane recalled. Something big. Jamie was unconscious. The sensors were dead, and that low hum had become a scream. They had to get out. But the tunnel had changed. Back at the surface, Charlie's comms went dead. 1 minute, he was talking to Duane. The next, static.